सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं परमानन्दमाधवम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। As you can see, the BMI chart has disappeared. That is because the BMI chart is present with all of you in your books, right? So we will not be displaying in between whenever we refer. Please keep that BMI chart handy. Whatever you have drawn, make sure that it is available for you to easily refer. If that BMI chart is already in your head, then there is no problem. Then you will be able to reconcile the ideas quickly. Right. Somebody who has not attended last two classes will be wondering, what is this BMI chart? Now you please go through the classes, then you will know what it is. Right. So we were studying this Vivekachoodamani text. In that there are 7 questions asked by the student. I hope you remember. Which are the 7 questions? Ko nama bandha, katamesha, katam pratisthasa, katam vimukta, ko savanātmā, paramah ka ātmā, tayor viveka katam etaducyatam. And the teacher began to answer. Katham vimoksha is answered. Kaha asau anātmā, what is this not self? The answer to this question is going on. In that first, the Guru or the author Shankaracharya ji took the topic of first upadhi of gross body and explained to us what is gross body, what is it made up of, how it is our upadhi and not us actually. Then how to get rid of identification with this upadhi, that was also elaborately taken up. How to do viveka, that also was taken up. Then the topic went into the second upadhi of subtle body, sukshma sharira. That is where we are in right now. We have understood what is subtle body, what are its components, what it is made up of, and how it poses to be the self but is not. How the qualities of the different parts of the subtle body are wrongly attributed to the self. All the topics we have seen. If you remember, mind and intellect, pranas, eyes, etc., how their functions are attributed to the self's functions, how their qualities or properties are attributed to be self's qualities or properties, but how that is not right. All these things we have seen. Then Shankaracharya started the topic of ahankara, the last topic, so to say, in this section of subtle body. Now, what is ahankara? So, ahankara is one of the 4 antakarana. We started from there. Antakarana, mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankara. Fine. In that one is ahankara, ego, the I thought, aham vritti. Now, sometimes we saw that this antakarana, which is generally chatushtaya, generally 4-fold, sometimes is also explained to be only 2-fold. Aham vritti and idam vritti. Then mana, buddhi, chitta comes under idam vritti. This thought. This thought means what? The thought which says this, which is either in perception mode or in thinking mode or in recollection mode, mana, buddhi and chitta. But it is all about the objects. And first part is aham vritti, the I thought. I thought means what? To the entire idam vritti, it keeps providing I. This is a watch, is a thought generated by my mind. When my mind going out through the sense organ of I perceives this object and then contacts the memory and recollects its name to be watch, my buddhi formalizes the thought and says this is a watch. But actually, behind the scene, behind the thought that this is a watch, there is another thought which says, I know this is a watch. Now, this I know is provided by ahankara. Aham vritti, I thought. I, it provides I. Now, the question is, what is this I? Is this the true I? We said no. Why? Because the true I cannot know. True I cannot perceive. True I doesn't have anything other than it. How can it say, I know a watch? There is no watch for the self. Then what is this ahankara? So we said it has somehow come in between. It is neither the self nor the upadhi, because upadhi is an instrument. This ahankara, though it is an instrument, it is part of antakarana, it poses to be the user of the instrument. It is the doer which uses the instrument to know or to do. Isn't it? So it is neither belonging to the self nor it is belonging to the instrument, but in between the two it has somehow come up. How it has come up, that also we have seen. That when there is subtle instrument, the consciousness gets reflected. The self gets reflected. Now that reflection of consciousness in the subtle instrument identifies with this ahankara portion. Subtle instrument is antakarana. In that there is one portion which is called as ahankara. It identifies with it. Identifies with it means what? It becomes one with it. Now this ahankara and reflection of consciousness, what we call in Sanskrit as chidabhasa, now both of them are always together and they work together. Now this ahankara chidabhasa combination is what we generally call as jiva, the individual, PFT in the BMI chart, the perceiver, feeler, thinker. Therefore, the second verse, first verse, Shankaracharya says, ahankar antakaranam eteshu chakshuradishu varshmani ahamiti abhimanena tishtati. Abhasa tejasa, along with this abhasa teja. Abhasa teja means reflection of consciousness. It is this ahankara which extends its identification with the other parts of the subtle body and even to the gross body, and it says, this is me. So first, that ahankara and reflection of consciousness have become one. And then that identification between the two of them is extended to the rest of the subtle body and even to the gross body. where it says, this is me. Are you getting what has happened? Now this ahankara, now when I say ahankara, you have to understand that reflection of consciousness is already with it. I don't have to separately say it. When I say ahankara means Chidabhasa is already included. Now this is the one which acts as doer, enjoyer, knower, etc. Ahankaraha sahavidneyaha karta bhokta abhimani ayam. Now this ahankara poses to be me. It's not me, but it poses to be me. Now what happens because of that? Let him pose, no? Sattwadi guna yogena cha avasthatrayam ashnute. Now associated with different gunas, it goes through different states. And then it says, I am awake, I am dreaming, I dreamt, I slept nicely. Who is this I? This is this ahankara. Is not the real I Om, but it is small I. It is dummy I, who is posing to be the self. But what is the issue? Let him pose. You Vedantins have all the problem all the time with everything. No. See, then what happens? The moment it has extended its identification with the subtle body and gross body, the modifications of subtle body are considered to be my modification. The pain of the gross body becomes my pain. Vishayanam anukulye sukhi. When the mind becomes happy by perceiving or by experiencing favorable objects, I don't say mind is happy, I say I am happy. Oh, but happy only? No. Duḥkhi viparyaye. Now once you have become happy, you will become sad also. Why? Because favorable objects created that happiness in mind. Unfavorable objects will do what? Will create sorrow in the mind. Again, I will not say that the mind is sad. I will say, I am sad. This is what ahankara has done. I am a man. I am the self. The self is neither man nor woman nor any gender. Then how do I get the feeling that I am a man? Because the body is that of a man. Ahankara identifying with this body says, I am this body, therefore I get feeling, I am man. I am Indian. I am a Kshatriya. I am a Brahmin. I am a young man, not an old person. I am an old man. How? It is because of this ahankara. Now all the qualities, functions of the upadhis, of the gross and subtle body become my qualities and my functions because of this ahankara posing to be me. Now this will answer many other questions also. Okay, what kind of questions? See, all of us are actually essentially one. Why? Brahman alone is there. So self of the nature of consciousness is one only. You cannot say there are 125 selves attending this class. You cannot say that. What you will have to say then? That there are 125 ahankaras, jivas attending the class. Now how this distinction has come? Because my ahankara is identified with my subtle body and my gross body and considers myself to be different from other ahankaras identified with other gross bodies and other subtle bodies. Careful. How do I get a feeling that I am different from you? That I am different from this object? Because of this ahankara. But if self is one, then how come there are so many ahankaras? Because there are so many subtle bodies. So there are so many reflections. So with each reflection, there is one ahankara. Sun remaining one, if I keep 100 buckets of water, there will be 100 reflected suns in each bucket of water, isn't it? Think. Last time we had seen this Pratibhimbavada. Bucket, gross body. Water in the bucket, subtle body. Sun, self. Reflection of sun in the water. Reflection of consciousness, reflection of self, Chidabhasa. The portion of water where it is getting reflected, Ahankara. Remember? Now, as many number of buckets, so many number of reflected suns. As many gross bodies, subtle bodies, so many reflections of consciousness. With each reflection, there is each ahankara, each jiva. But Veji, then it will mean what? That self is not alone. That is the limitation of the example. In the example, there is sun and there is something other than the sun which is getting reflected. Where it is getting reflected. In the originality, what is happening? This reflection is imagination. Is not real. Also, the self is not some physical entity like sun where it can physically get reflected into something. That also please remember. Subtle body is also not something which is physical like water. That is just an example. In example, physical sun is getting reflected in physical water. It is a limitation of example. We have to understand that. It is to explain a point. If you extend that example beyond a point, the example will break. Right? So what is happening? The self, though one, appears to be many. How? Because of various subtle bodies and reflections happening in all those subtle bodies merge or identify with each of them and create one ahankara. So each jiva considers itself to be different from other jivas and it also considers itself different from the self. Is this okay? Now Shankaracharya says, my dear, just as we said that I am not the gross body, just as we said that I am not the subtle body, please also understand I am not this ahankara also. I am not this jiva also. It is the jiva which becomes happy or sad. I am not this. Sukham duḥkhaṃ cha tad dharmaha. Joy and sorrow are its properties. Sadānandasya ātmanaha na. And not of the self which is of the nature of sadānanda. Ever bliss. It doesn't become happy or sad. It is of the nature of bliss. It is beyond joy and sorrow. See, joy and sorrow are two sides of the same coin. One who becomes joyful will become sad also. One who becomes happy will have sorrow also. The self is not happy. The self is happiness, or what we call as bliss. If you say I am happy, then there will be a point where I will be sad. When I say I am happiness, there is no possibility of sorrow. Because that becomes my nature and nature cannot be changed. Now, question. Who says I am happiness? No. Shastra say, no, I don't agree. Means what? See, just think. Shastra says that I am existence. That I can understand. Because I exist. and I want to always exist. Okay, that feeling is there. I understand that I am existence. I am consciousness. To some extent, I understand. Why? Because I know things. I want to know things. Though there are things that I don't know, but I know that I don't know those things. Isn't it? So knowledge being my nature, consciousness being my nature, sentiency being my nature, that also I can imagine. But how am I nature of bliss? And not only me, you are saying is each jiva is actually of the nature of bliss. That's what you are saying. How? There are so many people who are totally immersed in sorrow, depressed, dejected, no idea where the life is going. How can you say that they are of the nature of bliss? And sometimes I am also like them. Right now I may not be that sad, but I do have that feeling. Some point of time I do become like that. How can you say that I am not that sorrowful person? I am the self which is of the nature of bliss. How can you say that? Now that is what is analyzed logically in next verse. But before we go there, some background thinking has to be done. See, when do I become happy? These are now things which I am going to ask so many questions. You have to think, okay? When do I become happy? I become happy at any time. No. There will be some kind of pattern. Just think about the pattern. Generally, I am happy early morning, but later on, don't jump. Slowly. During the day also you become happy. When? When I get good tea. Very good. One reason of happiness you have found. No, tea doesn't matter for me. I should get good food. Okay, food. Both don't matter for me much. I should be with good people. Good climate. Good environment. Actually, Vedji, when I don't meet anybody, that is the moment that I am most happy. These people create all the nuisance, I am telling you. Okay, fine. Now, when I am saying good tea, good food, good people, good environment, good climate, what I mean? The tea that I want, that I like, the food that I like, the people that I like, the environment that I like, everywhere, what I like, if I have, I am happy. Now, when I will be sad? Two reasons. Number one, I like, but I don't have it. Or, I don't like, but I have it. Two ways I can be sad. I like to eat good food, or let us say, whatever, poha, let us say, example. I like poha, I don't get poha, I am sad. One reason of sorrow. I don't like this person, but he is there with me, I am sad. Another reason for sorrow. So, my happiness and sorrow is dependent on what I like and what I don't like. That's what was said in the previous verse also. Vishayānām ānukulye sukhi. When the objects and beings are favorable to me, I am happy. When they are non-favorable to me, viparyaye, in other way, duḥkhaṃ, I become sad. Now, do you mean to say that happiness is in those favorable objects? Think. When I get ice cream, I am happy. When I don't get ice cream, I am sad. Therefore, ice cream gives me happiness. Simple mathematics. Up to here, okay? The question is not whether ice cream gives you happiness or not. Question is, does ice cream have happiness to give you? It should have, no? It should have that quality in order to give it to me. Does ice cream have happiness in it? Think and tell. Does ice cream have happiness in it? Remember, number one, if ice cream has happiness, it should give happiness to all. Does it give happiness to all? Does everybody like same flavor of ice cream? No. No, but you said favorable. Even if you say it is my favorite flavor of ice cream, does it give happiness to me at all times? No. Suppose I have my favorite ice cream in my hand, but I hear a bad news about somebody I no more enjoy the ice cream. Remember, the ice cream is same. The happiness that you are going to get from it supposed to be same, but it is not same. Why? Because you have heard a bad news. Now what has happened? What has happened? This kind of experiences explain to me that happiness is not in the objects. If the joy or happiness was in the objects, it should give joy to all and it should give joy to me at all times. Both don't happen. It cannot be in the objects. Then why do I experience joy when I get favorable objects? Because your mind was disturbed when you had desire for those objects. Now the moment that desire is fulfilled and you get the object, your mind is relatively quieter. Relatively. Why? There was one less desire. There was one extra desire which is not there now. Therefore, you are relatively happy. Not actually happy. Relatively happy. Imagine something like a thick sheet of cardboard. A thick sheet. Big. Behind that sheet of cardboard, there is a light. Focus light. Now, because of the thick sheet, the light doesn't go on the other side. Now, suppose you create one hole in that cardboard sheet. What happens? That ray of light comes. One small ray comes. Now, suppose you create a few more holes. What will happen? Some more rays of light will come. Now, that thick sheet of cardboard is our mind, which is filled with desires. When one desire is fulfilled, one hole is created. And the happiness, the light comes out. I experience that much happiness. Now remember, if it was a strong desire which was there for a long time, which is fulfilled, a slightly bigger hole is created. And therefore, slightly more happy I become. So, my happiness is directly proportional to desires fulfilled. But this is only relative happiness. Why? Because I don't know what is my total happiness. I am only saying that last moment when there was desire, I was less happy. Now that desire is fulfilled, I am more happy. But it is only relative. What is the actual happiness? So the formula, mathematical formula, which I think we had seen earlier, Gurudev had given this formula. Happiness is equal to number of desires fulfilled divided by total number of desires. So suppose I have 100 desires, one desire is fulfilled. How much is my happiness? 0.01. Some of you would have forgotten mathematics. No problem, it's okay. 0.01 unit is my happiness. Suppose 10 desires are fulfilled, 10 by 100, 0.1 is my happiness. But Veggie, what if 100 desires are fulfilled? Even if 100 desires are fulfilled, my happiness is 1 unit. 100 by 100. Such situation will never happen. But mathematically speaking, 100 by 100. Now what happens? The moment I try to fulfill more and more desires, I also create more desires. I wanted ice cream. I fulfilled my desire by getting ice cream, but I have created more desires that I want more ice cream. There are no desires which just are satisfied with one experience. It never happens like that. For example, suppose you say that in cold season, or let us say when it is raining, oh, Veggie, you should hot tea and bhaji. Hot, fried, spicy food items. Now this is the present desire. Suppose you get tea and bhaji right now. Do you mean to say the desire is gone? No, it is strengthened. Every single time that it will rain hereafter, you will have that wish. Whether you will get it or not is a different thing altogether. But you will have that wish. Earlier, if you remember, we had seen the concept of vasanas. These desires are coming out from vasanas. With every fulfillment of desire, we are increasing our vasanas, which means we are increasing our future desires. Don't forget that. Which means what? More I go on fulfilling desires, numerator, the denominator keeps on increasing exponentially. As a result of which, I am never completely happy. So one way of being happy is what? Reduce the denominator. You understand numerator, denominator? Number of desires fulfilled. If I go on increasing, happiness will increase because directly proportional. Okay, fine. But we saw that when this goes on increasing, the denominator also goes on increasing. So the happiness will remain same, or rather it reduces. So instead of increasing numerator, you reduce the denominator. Means what? Have less and less desires. Then what will happen? See, even if you have no desires, some desires will automatically get fulfilled. You don't have it, but it is there. For example, I am sitting and it is raining. I don't have desire for tea, but somebody comes and asks, do you want tea? See, I don't have desire, but the tea comes. But because I did not have desire, I was not sad before. But I am happy now. I was happy before also because there was no desire. You see, you reduce the denominator, happiness will go on increasing. So when the denominator tends to 0 means it approaches 0, happiness will tend to infinity, because anything divided by 0 is infinity. Mathematics I am saying. But this is only technically. So one way of being happy in life is what? Reduce the number of desires. Often people ask this question, and I always tell the same thing, that our grandparents were happier than us. Why? Because they had lesser desires than us. I agree that they had lesser objects than us. I agree. They didn't have laptop, they didn't have phone, they didn't have... 100% agree. Majority of them didn't even have their own house. They were living in a rented house. Still they were happy. Why? Because they had less number of desires. Contentment was there in their life. It is desires which clouds our contentment and creates sorrow. So one way of being happy is to reduce the number of desires. Okay, what is the another way? Another way is to find out the source of happiness. What is that source of happiness? Where is that happiness? Right now we understood that the happiness is not in the objects. Remember, because if it is in the objects, then the object should give joy to all and it should give joy to me at all times. If it is not outside, it has to be in me. The source of happiness has to be in me. And that's why if you carefully see all these emojis, etc., WhatsApp, Facebook, all these emojis are there, no? You will see whenever the emoji is to show or portray happiness, eyes will be closed. Why? Because even the person who made the emojis knows that the happiness is inside. You don't actually need eyes to, express that. You yourself also reflect and think. When we are absolutely happy, we close our eyes. Even a small joy of hot tea, the moment we take, we close our eyes. Think about it. So happiness is in me. Now, in me means, in me there are so many factors. Which part of me is that happiness? See, happiness is not outside, so it has to be inside. Agreed. Now, in me there are so many factors. Which of it is that happiness? Is it my body? Is it my pranas? Is it my senses? Is it my mind? What exactly? Now, this is where the Shastra comes and helps us and says, happiness is not in you. Happiness is you. It is not that you have happiness. You are happiness. That's what it says. No. This is the now Veji, not done. Not a good idea at all. Why? You said that you are going to prove logically that I am happiness. Now again you are saying that only Shastras will tell. No. I will prove logically also. How logically? You see. We said that I become happy when I get favorable objects. Okay. Now let us go around it from other angle. Which are the objects that I like? Which are the objects or people that I love or that I like? Which are they? Those which give me happiness. Yes or no? I like my watch. Why? Because it gives me happiness. Suppose the watch no more gives me happiness. I no more like it. When I get new watch, what happens? I like that watch more. Why? Because that is giving me more happiness than this. I can give the same example for people also, but it will be too much. That's why I am giving for objects. But that's the fact. I like a person because that person gives me joy. The moment somebody else gives me more joy, that person becomes more dear to me than the previous person. So my liking for any object or the person depends on how much joy I am getting from it. No doubt that it is desire only which is getting converted into joy, because being with that person or object fulfills my desire. So we are not discussing that point now. That is clear, that is understood. The point here is what? I like what gives me joy. Do you agree? And of course, converse is true. I don't like what doesn't give me joy, or what gives me sorrow, I don't like. Fine. Now, what do I like the most? Or whom do I like the most? Think for a moment that you have been asked this question very personally when nobody else is hearing. Now answer. When people are hearing, then you will have different answers. Oh, I love my wife most, I love my husband most, I love my child. Think that nobody is listening to your answer. Now answer. Whom do I like the most? I like myself only the most. I may say that I like my son most. But remember, you like your son because he is your son. You may say, I like my mother the most. It is your mother, therefore you are. So it is still, I love myself the most because that person is my mother or my son. I also like that person. I like myself the most. No, Veggie. What about those people who commit suicide? They don't like themselves. That's why they are committing suicide. Wrong. They also like themselves the most. Rather, they are the proof that I like myself the most. To which extent can I go to save myself? To the extent of giving up the body. I am of the nature of happiness. Certain things, physical or mental, are keeping me sad. I don't like myself to be sad. I don't mind destroying my own body to get back to that state of being happy. People who commit suicide, they have this thought that by doing this, I will be happy. Why? Because right now I am in extreme sorrow. So even they giving up their body, destroying their body is a sign of they seeking happiness, loving themselves. They have gone to the extreme. Every single person loves oneself the most. Do you agree? See, our ego will not agree to this very easily. We'll say, no, I'm a very selfless person. Oh, no problem. Still you love yourself the most. Now careful. First sentence was, I love what gives me joy. Object or being. Second sentence, I love myself the most. Put these two sentences together. What does it mean? I give joy to myself the most. Correct? Correct? I love what gives me joy. I love myself the most means I give joy most to myself. Now, in order to give joy, I must have joy. And since I give joy maximum to myself, or since I give maximum joy, I must have maximum joy. I must be of the nature of joy. I must be of the nature of bliss. Then alone I can give joy to myself. Then alone I can become most favorite of myself. Then only I can love myself the most. Are you getting? Veji, what is the point? The point is, I am of the nature of bliss. Now, since I don't know that, I want to be happy. Because I don't know I am of the nature of bliss. Now, to be happy, I seek favorable objects and favorable people. Why? Because they give me joy. I think they give me joy. Right? Somehow in this entire thing we forget that the joy that they are giving me is not their joy, it is my own inherent joy that is coming back to me, so to say, when I get favorable object. That cardboard sheet of desires, holes in it, fulfillment of desires, there is that light, the source of all light, that is me, the source of all happiness. So to say, I think that I am not this, therefore I think myself to be something else, I want to be happy, want to get favorable objects and people, and then want to feel that happiness. In all these, we forget that even the joy that I experience when I get the favorable objects is not because of the object, but is because of my own true nature. No doubt I become happy when I eat ice cream, but the joy that I get from ice cream is not inherent to the ice cream, it is inherent to me. This is what Shankaracharya says in the next verse. Let us read the verse, we will understand the meaning. ātmārthatvena hi preyān viṣayo na svataḥ priyaḥ svata eva hi sarveṣāmātmā ātmā priyatamo yataḥ tata ātmā sadānando nāsya duḥkhaṃ kadācana ātmārthatvena hi preyānviṣayo na svataḥ priyaḥ svata eva hi sarveṣāmātmā ātmā priyatamo yataḥ tata ātmā sadānando nāsya duḥkhaṃ kadācana. Whatever we just saw in English is said here in Sanskrit. Viṣayah preyān. Objects preyān. Preyān means what? Are viṣayah, singular is used. Object is preyān, pleasurable. Why? ātmārthatvena, because of the self. Means what? Because I am of the nature of bliss and I love myself the most and I think that the object is giving me joy, therefore object is pleasurable. So when I say object is pleasurable, object is giving me joy, I have to include all these previous conditions which are common in all cases. That I am of the nature of bliss, I love myself the most, I think that this object is giving me joy, therefore object gives me joy. Object is pleasurable, na svataḥ priyaḥ. It itself independently is not able to give me that pleasure. It doesn't have capacity to give me pleasure. It is pleasurable to me because I am of the nature of bliss, I love myself the most, I think that the object is giving me joy or is dear to me, therefore it appears to be giving me pleasure. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the similar concept is explained. Here we are saying Vishaya, object. There the concept is people. Says, na bharyayaha kamaya bharya priya bhavati. Na pituhu kamaya pita priyo bhavati. Na putrasya kamaya putrah priyo bhavati. Ātmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. I don't like my wife because my wife is good. I like my wife because I like myself and the wife is giving me joy. Simple as that. Blunt truth. I don't like my son because son is good. I like my son because I like myself and the son gives me joy, therefore I like my son. You ask all the mothers, they will tell first 5 years the children were best. After that something happened, Swamiji. Remember, first 5 years also they were your children, after that also they are your children. What happened? First 5 years they were only giving me joy, afterwards they started giving me sorrow, and right now they are only giving me sorrow. That is what has changed. Think. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. Now, he uses that logic. He says, you see, svataḥ eva hi sarveṣāmātmā priyatamo. Svataḥ eva, it itself, sarveṣāṃ, for all. ātmā priyatamah, self is the most dear. Yataḥ, since it is like this, tata, therefore, ātmā sadānando. Therefore, self is of the nature of bliss. sadānando, ever blissful. Nāsya duḥkhaṃ kadācana. It never becomes sad. Sorrow is never for the self. It is ever of the nature of bliss. Why? By the same logic that we saw, that I love what gives me joy, I love myself the most, therefore I should give joy myself the most, therefore I should have joy to give joy, therefore I am of the nature of joy or bliss. The same logic. Yataḥ, since I am dearest to me, I have to have the joy to give to me, therefore I am of the nature of bliss. Okay. So every single experience of joy that we have, what is that joy coming from? Where is that joy coming from? It is coming from our own self. Why? Because that is the source of happiness. Are you getting? Gurudev used to explain this with a story, that there were two brothers staying in one house. Both were married. The elder one's wife used to cook food. The younger one's wife used to help in other household activities. Now the younger brother started to fall sick quite often. Started to fall sick. Now the younger one's wife had a theory which she discussed with her husband inside a bedroom. These things cannot be discussed outside. She said, you know, I think your bhabhi, your sister-in-law, your elder brother's wife is adding poison to your food. That's why you are falling sick a lot. The younger brother said, what are you saying? She is like my mother. She has been feeding me for so many years. Even before you came, even before I was married to you, she was the one who was cooking for me. She says, no. Gurudev was Gurudev, okay? So he will do all kind of things, jealousy, and I am not going to go to that extent. But the point is what? What you should do next day, when the food is served, you swap the plates. The plate that is given to your elder brother, you take it. And your plate, you give it to the brother. Then we will know. So brother, the younger one said, foolish thing, what are you telling me to do? She said, just do, for my satisfaction you do. Reluctantly he agreed. So next day when they were on the dining table, when the food was served, he took the elder brother's plate and gave him his plate. Elder brother said, oh, what a childish thing. You used to do like this in childhood. Now I thought you have grown up, but still you are doing the same. He ate. Again that night he vomited. Fell sick. Now the wife started to think that, see, now so it should not happen because he ate good food, supposed to be without poison. And the elder brother ate food with poison. He didn't get sick. My husband again fell sick. So they took that younger brother to the hospital. What exactly is the issue? Now what is happening? When the doctor told him to open his mouth, he immediately said, close the mouth again. Why? How are you alive? There is such a huge ulcer in your mouth which is stinking. You don't feel it. That ulcer is generating all the poison. So whatever you eat, the poison of the ulcer from your own mouth gets added, and that's what you are eating. So whatever you are eating is added with your own poison. There is no poison with the world. The poison is where? In our mind. Why I am telling this story? To explain 2 points. Number 1, if I am happy or sad, both are because of conditioning of my own mind. The objects are neither good nor bad. If I say a particular object is good, it is because I think it gives me joy. If I say a particular object is bad, it is because I get sorrow from it, not because it is bad. So first, stop coloring. Stop coloring everything according to your mind. Understand that it is not what it looks like. It is my mind which is showing it to be like this. Point number 1. Point number 2. Just as in case of that younger brother who was eating different things but finally was eating only poison, the happiness also lies within me. So the happiness that I am experiencing is not coming from the food outside. It is my own happiness. In the story, it is in the negative sense. Here I have to use in a positive sense. I may feel that I am happy when I get ice cream, but that happiness that I experience by getting ice cream is coming from my own self. Every single experience of happiness that I have, the happiness comes from my own self. Okay, then what about sadness? It is because of the coloring of the mind. For explaining both, the story was told. Now Shankaracharya extends that point and says, even in your deep sleep, the happiness that you experience is that of the self. Now, why are you explaining deep sleep? Because in deep sleep, there are no objects, there are no people. In deep sleep, you don't know whether you are a man or a woman. In deep sleep, you don't know whether you are a son or a father. In deep sleep, you don't have any objects of your like. You don't have people that you like or don't like. Still you experience that joy. From where it is coming? Even that is coming from the self. Objectless joy proves that there is no joy in the objects. And we all know that second most favorite thing is sleep. First most favorite thing is me, myself. Second most favorite thing is sleep. We crave for good sleep. Yes or no? And when that sleep comes, we don't care whether ice cream is in front of me or my most beloved person is in front of me. We sleep. We love it. Why? Because without the objects, I am closest to the self in deep sleep. The only problem is that I don't know. That's the only problem. But happiness-wise, I am closest. Only thing is that I don't know that the happiness that I am experiencing is my own happiness. That's the problem. Otherwise, I am, in the words of Vedas, I am touching Brahman and coming back. Every day I am visiting Brahman. Brahman means my own, that consciousness. I am visiting Brahman every day in sleep. Ahar Brahma gamayati. Every day I am visiting Brahman and coming. Means what? Experiencing that joy and coming. The problem is I don't know that it is my own joy. I don't know that it is my own nature of Ananda that I am experiencing in sleep. That's what Shankaracharya says. Next verse, verse number 107. Yatsuṣuptau nirviṣaya.
Yatsuṣuptau nirviṣaya.
ātmānando'nubhūyate.
ātmānando'nubhūyate.
śrutiḥ pratyakṣamaitihyamanumānaṃ. Anumanam cha jāgrati. Yatsuṣuptau nirviṣaya. ātmānando'nubhūyate. śrutiḥ pratyakṣamaitihyamanumānaṃ cha jāgrati. Yat, that which. Yat, that which. Suṣuptau, in the deep sleep. Nirviṣaya. Nirviṣaya, without the objects. Anubhūyate, that which is experienced. What is that? ātmānandaha. The bliss of the self is what is experienced in the deep sleep when there are no objects. So every single night when I sleep, the extreme joy that I experience, because of which I want to go back to that state, that extreme joy is coming from my own self. But here, that joy is intensified as compared to the other experiences of joy. Why? Because nirviṣaya, because it is without any objects. In the waking and dream, what happens? The joy that I experience in waking and dream also is of the self only, but it is short-lived. Why? Because by the time I become happy, I become sad. Why? Because by the time I get good or the favorable object, I have created another desire because of which sorrow has come. By the time I see the person that I like, I also see the person that I don't like. So in all the or both other states, my joy is short-lived. But in deep sleep, my joy is so much that I even lose track of time. They often say, no, when you are happy, the time goes faster. Isn't it? And when you are sad or not enjoying, time goes very slow. So for some people, no, class finishes very fast. For some people, they have to keep looking how much time is remaining. Okay, at least now 6:05. So I think in 5-10 minutes he will stop. Why? You are not enjoying that the time, you feel that is going slow. When you enjoy, the time seems to be going faster. Now all our experience is that in deep sleep, time goes very fast, isn't it? Therefore, after deep sleep, when you get up, you say, already morning. I thought it will be somewhere in the late night, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It's already 8 o'clock. I have to get up. Why? Because you were enjoying so much that you didn't even recognize the time. So I enjoy, or maximum bliss that I experience is in my deep sleep, where there are no objects. That happiness or bliss is of the self. In deep sleep, I don't know that. That is the thing. Ham kimapi na janami. I don't know anything in deep sleep. That's the problem. It is covered with ignorance. We will see that in the next point that he will be taking. But the fact of the matter is that the joy that I experience in the deep sleep, because of the, even when the objects are not there, is of the self. That joy is of the self. Who says so? Shankaracharya says, śrutiḥ. Shruti says, pratyakṣam, your own experience, direct experience says so. Aitihyam, the traditionals. Tradition is another way knowledge comes to us. You ask your father, you ask your grandfather, they will give you the same answer, tradition. Anumanam, even inference, you use logic. Jāgrati, Jāgrati here is a verb. It means attest. Shruti, pratyakṣam, aitihyam, anumanam cha, and also anumana, Jāgrati. They attest what? That the joy that I experience in the sleep when there are no objects is of the self. I already told you Shruti quotation. Ahar ahar Brahma gamayati. Every day we visit Brahman and come back. Means what? The experience of the deep sleep, the joy is of the self, is of that ānanda aspect of Brahman alone. It is our personal experience also, we have already seen. How Aitihyam, tradition also says the same thing. You ask your mother, father, everybody, they will tell you the same thing. Anumanam also, what do you mean by Anumana? Logic, you see. In the deep sleep, is there anything or anyone other than you? No. Not even your body. Not even your mind. See, because body is not there, you don't know whether you are male or female. See, by the time you go to sleep, you have awareness of the physical world. Once you are in deep sleep, you don't even know whether you are sleeping in Kashmir or Kanyakumari. It doesn't matter. Whether you are sleeping on the bed or on the ground, whether it is hot or cold, it doesn't matter in deep sleep. Why? Because there is no physical body. Even mind is not there, and therefore, whatever tensions, etc. you had in the deep sleep, you don't have any of it. So, in the sleep, you use logic. There are no objects, there are no people, there is no body, there is no mind, there is no intellect, there is nothing, but you are there and happiness is there. So, where that happiness will come from? It has to come from you because there is no other source. In the deep sleep, I alone am there and I am happy, which means what? I am the source of happiness. Are you getting the point? So, all these Shruti, Pratyaksha, Aitihya, Anumana, all of them attest what? That in the deep sleep, the joy that I experience belongs to the self alone. See, again, don't get confused. The joy that I experience in waking and dream also is of the self alone. But why it is said as deep sleep? To show that nirviṣaya. Even without objects, when there is joy in deep sleep, that is also coming from the self. At least in waking and dream, you can put that joy on something else. That I am happy because I am eating ice cream. I am happy because I am in this place. I am happy because I have these people with me. You can blame it on somebody. You can put it on somebody. In deep sleep, you can't even do that. It does belong to the self alone. Why? Because it is the only source of happiness. And therefore, this self can never become joyful or sorrowful, happy or sad. Who becomes happy or sad? Ahankara becomes happy or sad. Jiva becomes happy or sad. This sukha and dukkha, joy and sorrow are the qualities of the ahankara because of its identification with the mind. They do not belong to me. They do not belong to the self. Self is of the nature of absolute bliss. There is no sorrow in it. Nāsya duḥkhaṃ kadācana. Now, $1 million question is what? Number one, if I am of the nature of bliss, why I don't experience it? Why I don't know that the joy that I am experiencing is coming from the self? Question number two, how to go back to that experience of the self where I can remain blissful without becoming happy or sad? Both answers will be given in the next section. Shankaracharya ji begins the topic of causal body, karana sharira. And first thing that he explains in causal body is Maya. He says it is this Maya because of which, though you are experiencing the bliss of the self, you don't know it is bliss of your own self. It is the Maya which, when transcended, you will be united with that blissful nature of yours. Once you transcend this Maya, you will not become happy or sad. You will remain bliss. Not blissful, you will remain bliss. So the next topic Shankaracharya takes up is Maya. See, already the verses that we are seeing, ahankaras, and this analysis of happiness, themselves are so beautiful, isn't it? Now, let me assure you, the coming verses are even more beautiful. The next 2-3 verses which we will be seeing are often quoted verses, very widely known, reflected upon and thought about. When it comes to the concept of Maya, you cannot explain Maya in a way Shankaracharya has explained. To such an extent that people started saying that Shankaracharya was the one who introduced this concept of Maya, which is not true. I have explained to you before that the concept of Maya is there even before Shankaracharya. The word Maya and the concept is used in Bhagavad Gita, is used in the Upanishads. So Shankaracharya is wrongly called Mayavadi. Mayavadi means one who always spoke about Maya. But it is, let us not take it as a criticism on Shankaracharya. Let us take it as a as his, what we say, positive point, that he explained Maya in such clear way that nobody had ever done it. People started saying that this concept was brought in by Shankaracharya. And there is absolutely no doubt, whenever concept of Maya is explained, these verses have to be used. Avyaktanamni paramesha shaktihi anadya vidya trigunaatmika para karyanumeya sudhiyaiva maya yaya jagat sarvamidam prasuyate sannapya sannapyubhayatmikano bhinnapya bhinnapyubhayatmikano sangapya nanga yubhayatmikano mahadbhuta nirvachaniya rupa. These are the next 2 verses we will be seeing in the next session. Brilliant section of Maya. We will see in the next class. Let us conclude. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.